Got one here from Matt. Do you think that Marcus Freeman will pull a Clark Lee and innovate the previous defensive scheme that was put in place before him, or does he trim the fat and put his IQ on these boys?
Matt, I think he's going to. How do I say this? So I think he's going to take the things that they did well and put them into what he does. And I think that's what I took out of his comments on signing day, which is he basically said, I'd be an idiot to just dismiss what they've done the last 3 years. And he's correct. I mean, to me, that's what good coaches do. And we talked about this in the Needs podcast. What a great coach does is he says, hey, here's what I'm inheriting, and here's what they're really good at. And we're going to build our defense in 2021 around that. I'm going to recruit for what I want to do ultimately.
Yes, you're right.
And then when we get to that point, then we'll slowly transition to that, right?
Right.
And so I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to do and the thing about like Clark Lee didn't really innovate the defense. He just put his DNA into it. I mean, everything about it is still the same defense that Mike Elko ran. It's just it kind of had his DNA on it, things he likes, and also it adapted to the personnel. If you go watch the 2018 defense and then you go watch the 2020 defense, schematically it's going to look very different because he had different players. He left his corners on an island all the time in 2018 because he had great corners. He put a lot more on the safeties in 2018 than he put on Sean Crawford. And the times he did put that on Sean Crawford, you saw what happened. His linebackers were far less aggressive in 2018 because he had guys that weren't great blitzers in Tavon Coney and Drew Tranquil, but they were really smart guys. So they did a lot of force on defense, which meant they were funneling everything back into the linebackers, where this year they're like, hey, let's spill things. Let's get teams on the perimeter and let's get our athleticism going. Let's get Kyle Hamilton downhill. Let's get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in space. So I think Clark Lee did a great job tailoring his philosophy to the skills of his players in most instances. And I think we'll see the same thing from Marcus Freeman. And what that is going to look like for me, number one, Vince, is we're going to see a lot more multiplicity in base defenses from week to week. Clark Lee was very much we're a 4-2-5, and this is who we are, except third down. He was very regimented in how he was going to approach things. And then from that regiment of we're a 4-2-5, there would be some versatility.
Right.
You're going to see from Marcus Freeman 1 week they're a 4-2-5. With a true 4-2-5 with 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. Other weeks you're going to see a 4-2-5 with a rover. Other weeks you're going to see a 3-3-5. I'm just telling you right now, and that's going to be like. And when I talk about see it, I'm talking about on base defense.
Right.
You're going to see it every week, but you're going to see weeks where this week they're doing more 3-3-5. This week they're doing more 4-2-5, and it's going to be built more around the opponents. Clark Lee would scheme for opponents. He didn't personnel for opponents. I think Marcus Freeman is going to do more personnel for opponents, if that makes sense, like matchup-wise.
And I think this year is going to be a bit of a transition year anyway because, does everybody on this roster fit into exactly what Marcus Freeman wants to do? No. I mean, that's just a fact. Now, can some of these guys fit and kind of move, and you can kind of reshape their bodies and you can do some different things? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I still think this first year, maybe even a little bit into next year, is going to be a little bit of a transition. But to what you were saying, to the naked eye, things are going to look a lot different.
Yeah,
because
I don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to be. I don't think there's going to be as much of a transition as you do. Okay. And what I mean by that is I think Marcus Freeman is the type of coach, and we've seen him do this at Cincinnati. I mean, their 2019 and their 2020 defense looked a lot different personnel-wise because the strengths of the defense were different. And what that tells me about him as a coach is he's going to build around what he sees as the best parts of this team. So he's not going to ask them to – and he said this during his press conference, and I believe this to be true. Look, coaches say all types of things at press conferences, right? The reason I'm buying what he's saying is because I saw him do it at Cincinnati. And that is, I'm not going to ask Isaiah Foskey to be something that I don't think he can be, because that's what I do. I'm going to take what he does and we're going to build that position around him, and then how does it all fit together? So I think we'll see a little bit more carryover schematically than maybe youth do. I think the big difference is going to be from an alignment standpoint and an aggressiveness standpoint.
Sure.
But I think the transition will be more in 2022 and beyond. But I do think there will be some. I mean, you're going to see his DNA on it, just like 2018 looked different than 2017 because Mike Elko was more like Marcus Freeman.
Sure.
Whereas Clark Lee was more, this is kind of the lane we're going to stay in, and we're going to be great at it. And Marcus Freeman has some of that, but he also likes to do a little bit of aggressiveness and attacking and moving guys around and making the offense think. And that's what I really like about him.
Let's jump.